I called him Uncle Caleb for 10 years, and I'd loved him in secret for just as long. But the closer I got, the further he pulled away. Then, after I was drugged at a party, we had one chaotic night together. When I woke up, Caleb's expression was cold. "Leo, we can't see each other anymore." He transferred me to another talent agency and ignored every text I sent. But just when I'd finally gone quiet, he replied, "Giving up already? Figures. You're just a kid. Don't text me anymore." I wouldn't be texting again. My soul glanced over at my own body, broken and fading, because I was about to die. As my soul left my body, I looked back at myself. I was a wreck, barely breathing. Just a few minutes ago, during an action scene, the safety wire I was attached to had suddenly snapped. I tumbled 50 feet down a cliff face and blacked out on impact. Now I was lying on the ground in my white costume. The blood pooling beneath me spread like a grim backdrop. I looked up but saw no sign of a rescue team. My spirit drifted back up the cliff, following the path of my fall. I saw my assistant, Ryan, pulling out his phone to make a call, but the director grabbed his hand. "We're about to wrap this movie. You can't call 911. Leo's probably fine. Let's go check on him first. If the media finds out there was an accident on set, we're all finished." The director's voice was vicious. "And give me Leo's phone. If you dare make a call, I'll throw you down the cliff too." Ryan started to cry. "Then at least call Mr. Raymond, our boss. Or if not him, you have to tell Mr. Shaw. He's Leo's guardian. He's not his real son. The kid is 24. What the hell does he need a guardian for?" The director snatched Ryan's phone. "If Caleb Shaw really cared about Leo, would he have transferred him to your agency? It's obvious he wants nothing to do with him." Floating nearby, I clenched my fists without realizing it. I'd heard words like that so many times, but they still stung like a needle to the heart. The director found my phone on Ryan, checked the call log, and sneered. "Look at this. Leo's called him over 100 times this year, and Mr. Shaw hasn't answered once. Hundreds of texts and not a single reply." With that, he smashed my phone on the ground. "I'm telling you, even if Leo actually died, Caleb Shaw wouldn't bat an eye. He'd probably be relieved to finally be rid of the dead weight." A sharp pain lanced through my chest. I frowned, clenching my fists tighter. If I died, would Caleb really be happy? I looked down at the shattered phone on the ground. The spiderweb screen showed my text history with Caleb. "Uncle Caleb, happy Labor Day. Don't work too hard. And take care of yourself. Uncle Caleb, happy Memorial Day. Make sure you eat something sweet. Uncle Caleb, hope you're having a good week. Work must be tiring. Remember to rest. Uncle Caleb, Happy New Year. I really miss you." I let out a soft laugh. I hadn't realized it at the time, but looking at it now, I was like some kind of automated marketing bot, always finding a clumsy excuse to send a greeting, stupidly putting on a one-man show, and enjoying every minute of it. The crew finally found the on-set medic, and the group chaotically started heading down the mountain. The cliff was too steep, so they had to take the long way around. I crouched by my phone, watching blankly as they walked right through me. Suddenly, the phone vibrated with a muffled buzz. I looked down and saw it was a reminder I'd set for myself. A reminder to text Caleb a birthday message before 8 a.m. Today was his birthday. I tried poking the screen with my translucent fingers. Useless. If only I could wish him a happy birthday in person. As I thought that, my body was suddenly yanked into the air. In the blink of an eye, I was standing right in front of Caleb. I first met Caleb Shaw 10 years ago at a family dinner party. My parents were still alive then. The Johnston family was still one of the most prominent and wealthy in Los Angeles. As the son of the city's richest man and a close friend of my father's, Caleb was an invited guest. He was a quarter European, tall and elegant, with a refined air about him. The light from the Baroque crystal chandelier cast a soft, warm glow over him. He was so handsome he could have been a god from a Greek sculpture. I was captivated. I watched him from a corner, hiding in the crowd. The next time I saw him was in the cold, sterile silence of a hospital. I was sitting alone on a bench outside the morgue. Inside that room were my parents, who had taken their own lives after going bankrupt. Caleb arrived late that night and took my trembling hand. "Don't be afraid, Leo. I'll take care of you from now on." For a man with such deep, sharp features, his voice was incredibly gentle. Caleb paid off my parents' massive debts and took me home. His own parents were furious that he, an unmarried man, would adopt me. They threatened to disown him. His father yelled, "A 14-year-old boy isn't a stray cat you can just decide to keep." His mother added, "You're 26. What eligible young woman will want to marry you when you're saddled with a half-grown kid? If you insist on keeping him, then get out of this house." I stood in the middle of the grand hall with my head down, feeling like a glaring mistake. But Caleb said nothing. He just took my hand and led me steadily out the door. I pulled my hand away and said quietly, "You can just put me in an orphanage." He didn't need to sacrifice so much for me. He looked down at me, his expression serious. "I promised your father I would take care of you. I will not break my word." So, it was just because of a promise to my parents. Caleb had already built his own business empire. He took me with him, away from his parents' control, and in 3 years he turned his talent agency into the best in the industry. For 10 years, I studied hard while desperately hiding my feelings for him. I was always obedient. The only time I ever rebelled was when Caleb wanted to send me to study abroad. I handed the application back to him. "I want to be an actor at your agency." I expected him to be furious, to scold me for being naive and unrealistic. But he didn't. Caleb was silent for a few seconds, then said flatly, "I respect your decision." I froze. My heart suddenly felt hollow. I had actually hoped he would yell at me, because that would have meant he cared. This indulgence, maybe it was because I really didn't matter to him. Later, I got my wish and joined Caleb's agency as an actor. He never publicly disclosed our guardian-adoptee relationship. He told me in a business-like tone, "If you want to make a name for yourself, you have to do it on your own." So I gritted my teeth and worked my way up from a total newcomer to a supporting actor in B-list films. The only time I ever called him for help was when I was drugged at an industry party. He carried me home, and in the wet, steamy bathroom I kept calling his name. "Uncle Caleb. Uncle Caleb, I'm so hot. Uncle Caleb, it hurts. Uncle Caleb, I love you so much." I repeated the same few phrases over and over until they dissolved into broken sobs. In a daze, I heard Caleb sigh through heavy breaths. "Leo, what am I going to do with you?" In one night, 10 years of hidden feelings were laid bare. When I woke up, I clutched the blanket to hide the red marks on my body, naively thinking that I finally, completely belonged to him. But then I heard him say, "Let's just pretend last night never happened." Caleb sat impeccably dressed in a chair by the window. A ring of gray smoke rose from his fingertips, blurring his expression. We're impossible." It felt like my heart had missed a step, and my mind went blank for a second. The dense, aching pain all over my body rushed to my chest. "Why?" I asked, my voice hoarse. Caleb's voice was chillingly deep. "I'm your guardian. That will never change." It was as if I'd been thrown into the deep sea, my heart struggling against the suffocating pressure. As I sank, I heard him continue, "Tomorrow, I'm transferring you to Mr. Raymond's agency. He's a friend of mine. He won't treat you badly." "Leo," Caleb said as he got up to leave, his back to me in the dim entryway, "we shouldn't see each other anymore." The dark water crashed over me, pulling me deep into the abyss. I stopped struggling and closed my eyes. A second before the door clicked shut, I whispered, "Okay." My soul was floating right in front of Caleb, but he couldn't see me. Then again, he probably didn't want to see me anymore. "Mr. Shaw?" In the office, his secretary called his name softly, holding a file. Caleb had always been meticulous, a total workaholic. Was he actually spacing out during work? He blinked, coming back to his senses. "Continue." Caleb's tone was serious, but his eyes unintentionally darted to the phone on his desk. Could he be waiting for a text from me? I laughed at myself. How could that be possible? If he were waiting for my texts, why would he never reply to a single one? Maybe he'd found someone he liked? I sighed softly. It wouldn't be surprising if he had. Uncle Caleb was handsome, rich, kind, and gentle. He deserved a perfect love story, not the scandal of being involved with his adopted son. I regretted that night every single day. If I had just been more careful, if I hadn't been drugged, we would have never slept together. Then I could have stayed by his side, maintaining a normal, blameless relationship that no one could criticize. I was just thankful no one had found out about that night. I told myself that simple greeting calls and texts wouldn't attract any attention. If anyone asked, it was just an orphan showing polite concern for his benefactor. It was the safest way to hide my love. I would be good, forever, and never cross the line. When Caleb glanced at his phone for the third time, he finally cut his secretary off. "You can go for now." "Yes, Mr. Shaw." The moment the door closed, the phone screen on the desk lit up. The corner of Caleb's mouth twitched into an almost imperceptible smile. He picked up the phone. The instant the screen illuminated his eyes, I saw that faint smile vanish. The phone was slammed back onto the desk. I drifted closer and saw the message on the screen. The latest one was a birthday wish from his bank. I looked at Caleb, confused. A junk text could make him this angry? Curious, I floated in front of him, seeing his face up close for the first time as a spirit. Deep-set eyes under thick brows. A strong, straight nose. I wanted to tease him. I secretly blew a puff of air at his dense eyelashes. Caleb seemed to feel it. He closed his eyes, then opened them again. A faint, winding red vein had appeared in the white of his eye. "Are you working too hard?" I asked. "Why do you look so tired?" Of course, Caleb didn't answer me. Suddenly, there was a knock on the office door. Caleb paused. "Who is it?" The other side of the door was playfully silent. Caleb frowned and walked quickly to open it. "Leo, I told you." "Surprise." A cheerful female voice burst from behind a large bouquet of flowers. She tilted her head to reveal her face. It was Isabel, the woman Caleb's parents had arranged for him to marry. Did he think I was outside the door just now? How could he? He told me not to visit him at the office during work hours. And I had listened. Once I had a 104-degree fever and was sent to the hospital from a set. But I never bothered him. Why would I come to his office now? Besides, I was already dying. "So, how was that, fiancé?" Isabel walked in and plopped down on the sofa. Surprised? Caleb was stunned for a moment, then sighed in resignation. "Ms. Chung, I thought I made it very clear the other day. I need time. You said you needed time 6 years ago, and you still won't marry me." Isabel threw the bouquet on the floor. "You're marrying me tomorrow. Otherwise, the Chung family is pulling all its funding from Shaw Corp." "Then pull it," Caleb said, shutting his eyes tightly. He enunciated every word. "I'm never getting married." I stared at Caleb, my mouth slightly agape in shock. Never getting married? But 6 years ago, when his mother came to see me, she told me in no uncertain terms, "Your Uncle Caleb is marrying the Chung family's daughter very soon. You turn 18 next month. Move out, and don't have anything to do with the Shaw family ever again." I didn't want to mess up the Shaw family's business, and I certainly didn't want to stand in the way of Caleb's happiness. So, the day after my 18th birthday, I secretly left. I didn't even make it 12 hours before a group of men in black suits cornered me at the bus station. Caleb walked up behind them, radiating fury. He grabbed a fistful of my hair and raised his other hand high. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for the slap that never came. Instead, Caleb just roughly ruffled my hair and let go. His hands trembled as he fumbled with a lighter, failing to light his cigarette. Finally, he crushed the cigarette in his hand. His voice was ice. "You run again and I'll break your legs." Later, I asked him, "If you get married, can I still stay here?" He paused at my question, thinking for a few seconds before answering, "I'm not getting married for the time being." So it was just temporary. But now, Caleb was saying he would never get married. Never getting married? Isabel crossed her arms, a cold smile on her face. "Let me guess. It's because of that fake son of yours, isn't it?" She stared intently at Caleb, her tone dark. "You two aren't just a normal father and son. He loves you, and you love him, right?" Caleb's eyes darkened. The ember of his cigarette glowed and faded. No, he's just a kid who doesn't know any better. So because I don't know any better, you don't love me? But I was 24. I wasn't a kid anymore. Doesn't know any better? I think he knows how to love better than either of us. Isabel spoke slowly. That little guy is clumsy, and he gets flustered around you sometimes, but his eyes are always full of you. That silly kid has a collection of your things, and he fights your haters online. Did you know that? She finally told him. 2 years ago, Caleb was accused of blacklisting a pretty boy actor. The actor's fans went after him online, even photoshopping death portraits of him. Isabel noticed someone was constantly defending Caleb online and assumed it was a secret lover. She had the IP address traced. While Caleb was away on a business trip, she brought people over and tore our house apart. She found my printouts of every magazine article, webpage, and video screenshot that featured Caleb. Hidden with them in the deepest part of my closet was one of Caleb's cufflinks. My secret crush was exposed. I floated in the air, wanting to ram my head into a wall. Isabel taunted Caleb, "You don't have to be afraid of me knowing. The Chengs want the Shaw family's prestige, and I just want the status. Marrying a man like you is enough to make me the queen bee among those idiot heiresses for the rest of my life. So you don't love me, and I will never love you. If I loved you, I'd be like that innocent adopted son of yours, giving you care, respect, and compromises." She paced in front of the stunned Caleb and looked up at him. Compared to him, you're a total coward. No one had ever dared to talk to him like that. But surprisingly, Caleb wasn't angry. Back when Isabel discovered my secret, she had dismissed everyone else from the room. After her initial shock, she had laughed. "You, kid, you're pretty brave. Maybe. If loving someone that deeply, for that long, counted as brave." I begged Isabel not to tell anyone. She said, "Seeing as you're so damn good looking, I'll keep my mouth shut for now. But people like us are more afraid of having nothing than ordinary people. That's why we use marriage to lock down our interests. Caleb Shaw probably can't give you much." I shook my head. That's okay. He had already given me so much. A home, a future. It was enough to sustain me through the years of unrequited love to come. Isabel put on her sunglasses and walked toward the door. She looked back and said, "Caleb, that kid of yours has spoiled you rotten. Don't come crying to me when he gets tired of chasing you and flies away." "He won't," Caleb blurted out. Watching Isabel slam the door behind her, I desperately wanted to ask, "Caleb, were you so sure I would never get tired, that I would never fly away? Or that you wouldn't cry over me?" Maybe it was both. An email notification chimed from the computer. Uncharacteristically, Caleb didn't check it right away. He frowned, looking exhausted, and leaned on his desk, lost in thought. I floated over to the computer first and saw that the sender of the email was me. Caleb let out a restrained, shallow sigh before finally looking at the computer screen. My name was reflected in his eyes, a flickering point of light. His eyes shot wide open, and he quickly clicked open the email. A burst of fireworks bloomed in his shining eyes. The email contained a scheduled animation I had made. A little line-drawn dog with flapping ears was grinning under a sky full of fireworks. The video's background music started to play. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you." It was me, singing him the birthday song, accompanied by my own piano playing. Caleb stared at the screen without blinking and chuckled. "Childish." I couldn't help but mutter, "If you think I'm childish, why have you watched it 3 times without turning it off?" The video was still looping, but Caleb glanced at his phone, as if unsettled by its silence. By the time the birthday song had played so many times that even I was sick of it, Caleb finally picked up his phone. The dial screen showed my number. Beneath the number was a long string of red entries, marking the dates and times of my rejected calls. That was right after I had been transferred to the new agency and moved out. Just like I always did, I would estimate when he wasn't too busy, wanting to tell him everything about my new life. The new apartment has a big balcony and floor-to-ceiling windows. I love it. The company benefits are amazing. They deliver fresh vegetables and fruit right to my apartment, and they even send nutritious meals to the set. I landed a new role today, It's a martial arts movie. There are no stunt doubles allowed for this film, so I have to start training early. I'd gather everything I wanted to say, work up the courage to call, and always get a busy signal. He must be too busy, I told myself. After a few days of feeling down, I finally sent him a tentative text. Did you block me? No reply. But the two little words read that appeared under the message instantly blew away all my gloom. And so, like a happy little puppy, I started texting him again, my eyes wide with excitement and caution. Except Caleb never replied. Not once. In front of the computer, Caleb's finger hovered over my name but never pressed down. The moment he put the phone down, a sudden, sharp pain shot through me. The pain twisted into a giant vortex, pulling me away from Caleb's side. When I opened my eyes again, I was surrounded by a circle of people. The set medic had his hands pressed against my lower back, sweat pouring down his face as he told the director, "We have to get him to a hospital. Now. The bleeding won't stop." So I was back in my body. That sharp pain was the medic applying pressure to the wound. The director's eyes darted around evasively. "We already got him up the mountain. Just keep pressing on it for a while. It'll probably stop soon." The medic exploded. "Have you no humanity? You're going to kill him." The director shot back. "Don't you dare say that. He fell on his own, and I've already called for a car to pick him up." In the middle of their endless arguing, I felt like I was back in that night 10 years ago, outside the morgue. I was just as helpless and alone then. But Caleb had shown up. This time, would Caleb show up again? My consciousness was fading. As my soul began to float away again, I heard a phone's message alert. On the shattered screen, Caleb's name popped up. Caleb had finally texted me, but I couldn't open it. As I spun around in a panic, my assistant Ryan picked up my phone while the director wasn't looking. I floated behind him and saw the text on the screen, the single reply at the very bottom of our conversation. "Giving up already? Figures. You're just a kid. Don't text me anymore." Between the lines, I could almost see Caleb's cold, indifferent expression. I froze, then managed to force a smile. If Ryan saw it, he'd say again that my smile was uglier than crying. That's the face I always made when I texted Caleb and got no reply. And now that I finally had one, my expression was just as ugly. It was as if the bitterness was overflowing, and even my heart was shriveling up. The sadness was impossible to hide anymore. I looked at my own dying body and said to myself, I won't be texting again. This time, I really couldn't hold on any longer. When I was younger, I loved to follow silently behind Caleb. It was the only way I could stare at him without restraint. Caleb had broad shoulders and long legs, and I often struggled to keep up. He never stopped to wait for me. It was as if he was certain I would always be there, right behind him. I looked at my body, feeling my life slowly slipping away. I thought to myself, Caleb, when will you finally think to look back? When will you realize that the kid following you has already gotten lost? Ryan sighed, looking at the phone. He pulled his finger away from Caleb's contact, found a secluded spot, and dialed Mr. Raymond's number. The phone was damaged. My spirit and the signal seemed to be interfering with each other, and the call wouldn't go through. I tried to float far away, but I found myself back at Caleb's side. In his office, he was gripping his silent phone, not saying a word. Suddenly, he opened the dialer and started punching in a number. He typed it so fast, as if those 11 digits were etched into his memory. During the long, ringing tone, Caleb's agitation was palpable. After 3 unanswered calls, he slammed the phone back on the desk and slumped into his chair in defeat. I floated over. The number on the screen was mine. He was actually calling me? But why now, of all times? Ryan was using my phone to make a call right now. Caleb brooded for a few seconds, then picked up the phone again. This time, he dialed Ryan's number. How did he even have Ryan's number? But unfortunately, there was still no answer. Caleb's brow furrowed. He muttered anxiously, "Leo, what the hell is going on with you today?" He shot up from his chair, phone in hand, and strode out of the office, dialing as he walked. My number, Ryan's, Mr. Raymond's, no one was picking up. Caleb's pace quickened until he was practically jogging by the time he reached the underground garage. After who knows how many calls, someone finally answered. Caleb didn't even wait for the person to speak. "Where's Leo? Put him on the phone." A choked sob came from the other end. It was Ryan. "Mr. Shaw, please, you have to save Leo." Caleb stopped dead in his tracks. His breathing became shallow, almost silent. "What did you say?" He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Leo, what happened?" "Leo, he fell down the mountain. He's lost so much blood, and no one will take him to the hospital. He's going to die." Caleb was frozen in place, but I could hear his heart and breath suddenly racing. His pupils dilated in shock as he fought to keep the tremor out of his voice. "Where is he?" Caleb sped after the ambulance, his car right on its tail. When he arrived, the director was ordering people to lift my body into a cargo van. The two vehicles screeched to a halt in front of the van, and everyone on scene froze. The only sound was the dripping of blood from the stretcher. Caleb stumbled out of his car, his gaze shifting from the blood drops to the person on the stretcher. I was still in my white costume, which made the massive bloodstain on my waist brutally conspicuous. "Leo?" He whispered my name, and his eyes instantly turned red. I used to always smile and answer him, "I'm here, Uncle Caleb." But this time, my eyes were shut tight, my pale lips motionless. In the ambulance, Caleb was ramrod straight, sitting rigidly in the corner as if terrified of getting in the way of the paramedics. "How is he?" Caleb's face was expressionless, but the slight tremble in his hands betrayed him. "It's not good," the paramedic said grimly. "Looks like he was cut by sharp rocks on the way down. The wound is deep, and his spleen might be ruptured. The bleeding is severe. Mr. Shaw, you should prepare yourself. He'll be fine." Caleb cut him off. The paramedic sighed softly and continued his work. I slowly descended to Caleb's side and heard him murmuring to himself over and over, "He'll be fine, he'll be fine." It was part plea, part prayer, and part self-delusion. I blinked. I didn't understand why he seemed so tense. "Caleb, are you like this with everyone close to you? Even with someone who doesn't matter at all?" With a police escort clearing the way, the ambulance reached the hospital quickly. A team of specialists was waiting at the entrance and rushed me into the operating room. In such a short time, Caleb had managed to arrange so much. Ryan caught up, standing by helplessly. "How did he fall?" Caleb's voice was deep and hoarse. Ryan sobbed as he explained, "Leo was being hoisted up to the highest point when the safety wire just snapped. A lot of the equipment on set was old. Leo is meticulous. He told the director about it a long time ago. But the director didn't just ignore him, he yelled at him." Veins popped on Caleb's forehead. He gritted his teeth. "What did he say?" Ryan's voice cracked. "He called Leo picky and said that even though his old boss had thrown him out, he was still acting like a big shot. He also said Leo deserved to be abandoned by the Shaw family." That last sentence seemed to pierce Caleb deeply. He squeezed his eyes shut, his brow furrowed, his eyelashes trembling. I floated nearby, feeling surprisingly calm. In the year since I'd left the Shaw house, I'd heard much worse. Ryan wiped his tears and continued, "Leo worked so hard. He could endure anything. He started training for the action scenes early, and he'd come back to the hotel every night covered in sweat and bruises. Even when he had a high fever, he'd go right back to the set after getting in 4. But for some reason, the director was always targeting him, making him suffer." Caleb stood perfectly still in front of the operating room, his hands clenched into tight fists. He slowly opened his eyes, which were now filled with bloodshot veins. I gave another one of my ugly smiles, wanting to tell him, "Hey, it wasn't that much suffering. Just a few more night shoots, a dozen more takes of being drenched in the rain or getting beaten up." To me, none of that really mattered. Just as I was thinking this, I saw my boss, Mr. Raymond, striding over. "Mr. Shaw, you..." Before he could finish, Caleb launched himself forward like an arrow and knocked him to the ground with a single punch. Mr. Raymond didn't say a word as Caleb grabbed him by the collar and slammed him against the wall. "I entrusted him to you, and this is how you take care of him." A lock of sweat-dampened hair fell across Caleb's crimson eyes. I had never seen him so ferocious, like a lion in a blind rage. All of you had better pray that Leo is okay. Mr. Raymond was thrown aside, but he picked himself up. Mr. Shaw, you probably don't know this, but your mother contacted Leo's director. Ignoring Caleb's shocked expression, Mr. Raymond continued, she came to me first, said she wanted Leo to disappear from the entertainment industry completely, preferably to leave the country, to ensure he would never be in your sight again. She told me to terminate Leo's contract, or at least shelve him. I refused. Then she told me I would regret it. Mr. Raymond frowned. I only found out today that after that, she went to Leo's director, so that was it. There was a reason for all the mistreatment. It was because of me. Caleb's eyes were vacant, his lips moving slightly. It was all because of me. As if he could no longer support himself, he stumbled back 2 steps before catching his balance. Transfer Leo's contract back to my agency. Do it now. Caleb grabbed Mr. Raymond, his voice panicked. Go to your office right now, get his old contract, and bring it here. Go. Mr. Raymond pleaded, Mr. Shaw, you need to calm down. I am calm, Caleb said, pulling his hand back and taking a deep breath. I have to make it up to Leo. When he gets better, I'm going to give him the best resources, the best care. Caleb was starting to ramble. Yes, and personal assistance. I'll get him 2 personal assistants so he'll never get hurt or sick again. I thought unhappily, it doesn't have to be this complicated. If you just let me stay by your side, or if you would just answer my calls, or reply to my texts, that would have been enough. With a click, the light above the operating room door went out. Caleb's rambling stopped abruptly. He stared at the door and took a sharp breath. The door opened and the surgeons filed out. The entire floor was as silent as a vacuum. Caleb's breath seemed to be frozen in his chest. I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw. The lead surgeon took off his mask. The patient was brought in too late. We missed the optimal window for resuscitation. He passed away from excessive blood loss. Please accept our condolences. What? Caleb's voice sounded like it was caught in his throat. All the color drained from his face. He was like a machine that had suddenly lost power, all functions ceasing at once. Nearby, Ryan collapsed to the floor. He clutched his head and screamed, his voice raw with despair. He could have survived, it was the director. He wouldn't call an ambulance, and he wouldn't let any of us contact anyone. Ryan choked on his words. They waited 6 whole hours. Leo just lay there all alone for 6 hours. They just let him bleed to death. Through the sounds of weeping, Caleb remained motionless and silent. He didn't move until Ryan, sobbing, pulled my phone from his bag and handed it to him. This is Leo's phone. It got broken when he fell, so he always had me hold on to it. He always made me promise that if you called or texted, I had to tell him right away. Ryan lowered his eyes. But the call never came, and now it never would. Caleb took the phone, his movements slow, as if his own soul had been ripped from his body. The doors to the recovery room opened, and a narrow gurney was wheeled out, carrying my body. Caleb walked over and reached out to lift the white sheet covering my face. Leo, wake up. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, don't sleep in. I'll make your favorite fluffy omelets. When Caleb wasn't busy, he used to wake up early and make me omelets. I would always eat every last bite and look up at him with a smile. I love your omelets the most. The truth was, even though omelets were the only thing he knew how to cook, they weren't that great. Sometimes he'd forget the salt, other times they were too salty. But because he made them, I loved them. I looked at him through a blur of tears. You idiot. It was never about the omelets. It was always about you. Caleb stared at my face without blinking, as if certain I would open my eyes at any second. But I didn't. He looked up at the doctors, bewildered. What's wrong with him? The surgeons exchanged uneasy glances. Mr. Shaw, one said carefully, the patient has passed away. Impossible, his voice was low and raw. Leo can't be dead. You have to save him, Caleb said, pushing the doctor and the gurney back toward the operating room, his face a blank mask. Go back. Don't stop until he's alive. He spoke with such earnestness, but his strength was so great that several doctors couldn't hold him back. Mr. Raymond grabbed him from behind. Mr. Shaw? Something was very wrong with Caleb. Everyone could see it. The doctor said hesitantly, Mr. Shaw, we know this is difficult to accept, but he needs to be taken to the morgue now. Caleb broke free from Mr. Raymond and swept me up into his arms. You gave up on him. I won't. After a year, I was back in the house I shared with Caleb. Nothing had changed. My slippers were neatly placed by the door, and the baseball cap I always wore was still hanging in the entryway. Caleb gently laid me down on the sofa. Leo, just rest for a minute. I'll get a towel to wash your face. I floated behind him into the bathroom and saw my cup next to his. Our toothbrushes were still facing each other, just as I had deliberately placed them a year ago. Caleb bent down to wring out the towel, his fingers trembling. Returning to the sofa, he gently wiped my face. How did you get so thin again? The fruit and the set meals I had sent to you, did you not eat them? I was stunned. All of that, it had been from Caleb? But why? He was supposed to be indifferent to me. He waited for an answer that never came. A hopeless silence filled the room. He stopped what he was doing and turned on the projector next to the sofa. My face suddenly appeared on the white screen as thousands of photos and videos began to cycle through. 15 years old, my middle school graduation photo. 16, running and jumping on the field at a school sports day. 18, standing on stage at my high school's coming-of-age ceremony. My eyes searching the crowd for one person. Caleb was always too busy, he never attended any of my school events. So how did these photos and videos get here? Caleb propped me up, supporting my limp neck and head with his shoulder. He took my hand, lacing our fingers together like any ordinary couple. Maybe my hand was too cold, because a flicker of pain crossed Caleb's face. Leo, look, this was your first audition. This was your first endorsement ad. And this one, your first time walking the red carpet at a public event. He slowly rubbed his cheek against my head and whispered, My Leo, you're so beautiful. The images on the screen kept changing. I saw myself in every possible state. Laughing heartily, frowning in anger, smiling with crescent eyes, crying silently, so many that I couldn't even remember where most of them came from. So many that I almost started to believe it. Caleb actually loved me. But how could that be possible? I forced down the lump in my throat and made myself look away. But then I heard Caleb's voice from the video. Leo, happy birthday. I looked up and saw that the screen was playing surveillance footage from our living room. It was from my birthday last October. In the video, I was drunk and passed out on the sofa. Caleb was kneeling on one knee in front of me, leaning down to kiss my forehead. My eyes went wide. I shot up high into the air as I heard him say, May my Leo always be safe, healthy, and have a brilliant career. And may he never, ever know that I love him. I suddenly laughed, but the tears came first, streaming into my open mouth. Caleb really loved me. I was so happy. But why was I crying? My heart had stopped beating, so why did it still hurt so much? I dove toward him without a second thought, just like I used to leap into his arms as a boy. But the moment I touched him, my soul dispersed like a thin cloud. Couldn't hold him. I would never be able to hold him again. A single tear fell through my hand and hit the floor. Then more tears passed through me. My hand was like a phantom as I stroked Caleb's tear-streaked face. Idiot. I was crying too, but I laughed as I cursed him. Wouldn't it have been better to just let me know sooner? If you had, maybe we wouldn't have had so many regrets. So, you heard me after all. Caleb gave a sad, broken smile. He looked up, as if he were looking right into my eyes. The first time I saw you, I thought you were like a stubborn but adorable little deer. Your eyes were so big, so round. You stood so straight, but you were hiding in the most secluded corner, stealing glances at me. When I heard your parents had passed away, my first thought was what would happen to you, whether you do something foolish. So I rushed to the hospital to find you. The truth is, there was no deathbed promise. I froze, staring into his eyes. They were filled with a pure, raw devotion. The moment I took your hand, I decided I would hold on to it for the rest of my life. But you were too good, too dazzling. He reached over and opened the cabinet beside him. It was packed full of my things. The pen I used to use, a broken pair of headphones, my student ID and school pass lying around, and so many other things I had long forgotten. He had kept them all. Caleb took out a thick stack of envelopes. To my surprise, they were the love letters I had received in school. He had confiscated them all back then with a stern face. I never thought he'd kept them. He opened them one by one, smiling as he read the words. They were right. My Leo really is a wonderful person. I floated behind him and saw that he had made notes on all the lines describing me. For the compliments, he wrote things like, Leo is indeed very good-looking and very well-behaved. This comparison to a slender bamboo is very apt. And for others, he'd argue, no, Leo isn't a cold person. If he's not talking, he's probably just hungry. I laughed through my tears. Who could be so ridiculous, so childish? As he read, Caleb continued, I watched you grow up, become taller, stronger, more and more outstanding. And I started to lose confidence in front of you. I was afraid I would hold you back, afraid I wasn't giving you the best. That's why I applied to the best schools abroad for you. But you didn't go, and a part of me was so happy. Until the night I called him for help. Caleb's voice was raspy. I was terrified. I abandoned a table full of investors and rushed to the hotel to find you. When I saw you were okay, I was so relieved, but at the same time, I wanted to crush you and melt you into my very being. That night, Caleb had indeed almost broken me. But when I was sober, I started to regret it. I regretted not being able to control myself, regretted putting you in such an impossible situation. I was afraid of ruining your career, so I made you leave the agency. I was planning to handle things at home and then bring you back. Caleb laughed, his spirit broken. I even imagined that when you went on location for filming, I'd follow you everywhere, be your assistant. But his throat tightened, and he couldn't say any more. But we never got that future. I stood silently in front of Caleb, watching his pale, agonized face. It was such a shame. I had waited for Caleb to text back, and he had waited for the perfect moment. We were standing at opposite ends of our story, and all we got was our own separate regrets. Caleb's whole body was tense from holding me. On the screen, my different faces flashed by, and Caleb's suppressed sobs melted into the laughter from the videos. My soul was becoming more transparent. I knew I was really leaving. I knelt down and looked up, gently stroking his tear-filled eyes. Don't be sad anymore, Uncle Caleb. In this world, who doesn't have regrets? I leaned in to hug him, like a wisp of cloud embracing the moon. A sudden knock sounded at the door. Caleb didn't answer, didn't move. The knocking turned into pounding. Caleb Shaw, you open this door right now. It was his parents. Caleb looked up, the grief in his eyes already gone. He gently laid me down and went to open the door. His mother burst in first, frantic. I heard you took Leo's body. I understand you're sad. You raised him for 9 years, you'd be sad if it were a dog. But you need to get over it. His parents are long gone anyway. It's a good thing he's dead now. At least their family can be reunited in the after. Shut up. Caleb's eyes were bloodshot, and his body was trembling. The last thread of his sanity was about to snap. His mother stared, shocked. How can you speak to your mother like that? His father's voice was even louder. Caleb, what has gotten into you? No wonder Isabel broke off the engagement and is pulling her family's funding. Apologize to your mother right now, and then go to the Chengs and beg for forgiveness. He slammed his cane on the floor. Otherwise, you won't get a single penny of the Shaw family fortune. I'm not the one who needs to apologize, Caleb said, staring straight at his mother. You are. Terrified by the hatred in his eyes, she stumbled back. What are you talking about? I know you contacted Leo's director. What you had him do indirectly killed Leo. The director is on the run now, but when he's caught, he will confess everything. Caleb's jaw was tight. You're all murderers. None of you will get away with it. The color drained from his mother's face, and she could barely stand. You're insane. Ha, Caleb gave a bitter laugh and looked down. I should have gone insane sooner. 9 years ago, I should have told Leo, told everyone, that my intentions weren't pure, that I had ulterior motives, that I'd been planning this all along. Now both of his parents were stunned into silence. Caleb's smile vanished. His voice turned cold. With the Chengs pulling their investment and your criminal charges, the main corporation will go bankrupt soon. I've already settled the accounts for my entertainment company. Someone will contact you about a share transfer. Consider that my repayment for raising me. It's enough for you to live on in retirement. So, Caleb had long been preparing to use his own company to compensate them. Compensate them for what? For the Cheng's withdrawal or for his own deviance? Maybe he really had been planning a future for us. His parents were dumbfounded. And you? Caleb turned to look at me and smiled softly. I have someone more important to be with. His parents followed his gaze and saw the body on the sofa. They recoiled in horror. They screamed, "He's lost his mind. He's really lost his mind." Shoo! Caleb raised a finger to his lips. "You'll wake him. Go now." His parents fled as if their lives depended on it. Caleb walked back to my side, lifted my body, and hoisted me onto his back. He adjusted my weight. "Leo, you once said you really wanted to see a sunrise by the ocean. Let's go now, okay?" Caleb carried me on his back, walking slowly along the coastal highway. Night fell around us. We passed through noisy city streets and walked toward the quiet shore. The streetlights, one after another, cast cone-shaped halos of light that looked like a row of tombs. He walked tirelessly, carrying me, burying our past with every step. My soul had grown thinner. I was really going to leave. The night sea was dark as ink. Caleb stood with me on his back on a rock by the shore, the waves crashing at his feet. The sea breeze was damp, cold, and immense. The phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Caleb answered. It was Mr. Raymond. "Mr. Shaw, Leo's director ran a red light while trying to escape. He crashed into another car and died on the scene. And the car he hit, it was your parents." The voice on the phone was washed out by the sound of the waves, growing faint. The tears and sweat on Caleb's face had been dried by the wind, and he looked as cold and composed as ever. He set me down, letting me lean back against his chest, and then took 2 rings out of his pocket. He slipped one onto his own ring finger, then solemnly placed the other on mine. "See, Leo," Caleb's pale lips pulled into a slight smile. "It's a perfect fit. I was planning to propose to you by the sea, after everything was settled. I was too cautious, too indecisive. Not brave enough. I'm the one who killed you." Our fingers intertwined, and the 2 rings touched. Caleb lowered his head and brushed his cheek against mine. A cherished, gentle gesture. "Leo, I'm so sorry. Leo, I love you." I heard him and I smiled up at the sky. "Caleb, I loved you in this life. But the next time we meet, I promise I won't just follow behind you. I'll be braver, more open. And I'll love someone who is just as brave and open as me." On the dark surface of the sea, an orange glow began to spill out from the horizon. We were illuminated, as if by some kind of witness. The sunlight grew stronger, but my soul grew fainter. I tried to reach out and touch it, but even my phantom form had dissipated. "But we haven't said goodbye yet. It's too late now, Uncle Caleb. Next time you love someone, remember to tell them sooner. Don't ignore their calls or their texts. If you do, you'll break their heart." I floated higher and higher, and from a distance, I saw a huge splash in the water by the rocks. On the shore, there was no one left. I flew toward the sun, but then I heard a familiar voice from behind me. "Leo." I turned back and saw Caleb soaking wet. He was smiling. "This time, it's my turn to follow you."